Hello everyone. So today in our video, we are going to continue from where we left off in our last week's video, which is we covered the sequence node, right, within the BPML code and how the structure looks like in the BPML. And the reason why we are having these back-to-back sessions is for folks who want to develop their skill set not only in map development, but they want to learn about business process development and then slowly moving away from the graphical process model, which is basically a drag and drop and connecting those services and adapters and doing some very basic configuration versus uh, doing the coding right in the BPML language itself within the Sterling Integrator dashboard and no longer relying on the graphical process modeler for any kind of business process development, be it a new business process or editing an existing business process based on different kind of production support tickets. So with that, let's continue with our conversation. So today we are going to start with our operation node. So with that, let me share my screen. And while I'm doing that, I know there might be some folks in this channel who are trying to utilize these videos to be able to learn some of the Sterling Integrator basics because the reason of creating this channel is to impart that knowledge that I have acquired over the last 15 to 16 years working in the EDI domain. Considering the fact that as an individual contributor, I also face the same challenge to be able to learn these processes, learn these basics, because there is really no such very comprehensive public-facing tutorials out there for a folk who wants to get trained on Sterling Integrator, right? And I hope like I'm making some difference in your day-to-day career in some way or other. Looking into the comments, so the folks who have joined new, please like, share, and subscribe this channel, as well as hit the bell icon so that you get notified whenever I'm posting some new videos or any new topics or posts. Right. With that, let's now quickly talk about the operation node. So uh, operation node is where actually the work happens, right? So when we say a business process is basically a combination of tasks, right, that gets executed through the services or adapters, right, and then it is able to execute a business functionality, right. Now when we use graphical process modeler and then drag and drop, let's say, different kind of services and adapters, each and every service and adapter that we drag and drop into the blank space or the empty space within the graphical process modeler, that single individual service or adapter is an operation block, right. So consider that you have used five different services and adapters and connected them in your graphical process model. That means that you would at least have five different operation blocks with operation start and end tags with the name of the services or the adapters within your entire code if you look into the business process modeling language or the BPML code itself. Over here, in this example, what I'm showing is there are a couple of services that has been used. Both are the same service, timestamp utility service that you can see from the participant name. So the participant name defines what is the name of the service or the adapter. The operation name can be modified. You can customize this based on what you want to name it, right? There is no restrictions to do that, but you cannot edit or change the name of the participant. That is something that you can change. That's by default the name of the service or the adapter. Now, within that operation, if you see, there is operation start and operation end, and then operation start and operation end. Within the operation block, you will have the output message, which is the input to the business process to execute the specific task that it is supposed to do. And then the input message is the input message to the process data or back to the business process. So this output and input, you have to take the perspective of a execution or a workflow on runtime. It's not from your standpoint. It's from the business process. If there is any input that goes to the service, that goes into the output message block, or and then the next is, if there is some output data that gets created out of this execution of this specific step, that comes as an input either to the process data or to the next business process on runtime. So over here, if you see within the output message, there are a couple of assigned statements, and the action is current time, which means that you are actually providing the current time to this timestamp utility service. And the format of the current timestamp is, you're defining, you're telling that when you are giving this current timestamp as an input to the timestamp util service, give it in the format of YYYYW. And back after the timestamp utility service, you want to utilize this to get the current date and time. And you want to assign that information back to the business process in the process data under a tag or an element called week. Within that, you want to assign that timestamp, the current timestamp. Because basically, if you look into the service and adapters documentation, timestamp utility service basically gives you the current timestamp when that business process is getting executed. At that point, what is the time? And then the next process is the same process, but then it's a different uh, date time structure that you are actually needing. And that's why there is some changes to the configuration, both on the output message as well as the input message. Moving on, assign node. Assign node is a very crucial element within a business process. There are like for a business process, typically I've seen like it's almost 99.99% you will have some kind of assigned statements, because you have to like assign some variables, assign some constants, or provide some information through assigned statements. So it's very important, okay, that assigned node is something that you are familiar with when you are actually developing a business process. And they are actually used to pass either different kind of parameters to the service or the adapter, and then also receiving the results back from them and place it in the process data. So you need it for both inbound and outbound bidirectional. All right. And they themselves are used on its own, like they are not under any service and adapters, but they are under the basic, like the basic activities or functions that are available in the graphical process modeler. Next, if you see, the topic is icons to XML. In here, if you see the structure in the graphical process modeler and then try to correlate the mapping to the BPML code, every service gets this operation block which you have already covered. So you have a couple of get date time, you get a couple of operation blocks, right, within the business process BPML code. And then everything, like all the operations, are bounded by the main sequence node, which is the sequence start and the sequence end, because every process will have a sequence start and sequence end, unless and until it can be ignored for scenarios where you have only one single step. Maybe just a assign statement, you don't need a sequence start and sequence end. But very rarely, very, very rarely, that you will have only one single assign statement or one single service or an adapter within a business process. It is always a combination of one plus elements. And that is the reason I keep mentioning this, that there will always be a sequence start and a sequence end. And then the next topic is the service and adapter configuration. I have briefly touched upon this specific topic in our last week's tutorial, which is there are two things that you have to consider. One is that you are using a service in your business process, and let's say you have to, and this is an example that I'm trying to give you. So let's say you have to develop or create five different business processes, but for that five business processes, there is one common service or adapter, let's say SMTP adapter for sending emails. And your email server is the same for all the five business processes. All the settings within the SMTP send adapter is same for all the business processes. In that case, don't you think that when you are either creating the business process and also adding the SMTP send adapter within your workflow in all the five business processes and giving all the same configuration again and again in all the business processes, that's time consuming, error prone, as well as you're duplicating the same effort, right, across all the business processes. Instead of doing that, what if you create a custom service configuration or an adapter configuration prior to developing the business process for, let's say, SMTP send adapter within your Sterling Integrator dashboard, and you can name like based on if you are following a specific naming convention for your company or customer, right? And provide all the information within that custom service or adapter configuration, create it, enable it, and then if you refresh your graphical process modeler, automatically if it is online with your Sterling Integrator dashboard, the stencils will get auto refreshed and you will see the specific SMTP send adapter related custom service configuration also listed as the stencil that you can drag and drop into your graphical process model or GPM, as well as you can use it within your BPML code if you are doing like a BPML way of writing business processes. That way, you just drag and drop or you utilize the same code block for all your business processes. You have to don't have to duplicate the effort again and again. So you are using a common service or adapter configuration for all your business process to achieve the same functionality that you're trying to achieve. So that is where the service and adapter configuration is important. And how you can access it is something that you can have given here, right? You can go into your Sterling Integrator dashboard, go to deployment tab. Under deployment tab, there is a services tab, and within the services tab, you click on configuration, is where you can see all the default service and adapter configuration that comes when you are installing the product. But then you can create a replica or a copy of the existing service or adapter configuration and then change the default configuration to your configuration and then utilize that name of that uh, configuration in your business processes. That is what it's all about, service and adapter configuration. Now, let's say a scenario in another scenario where we are using service and configuration. What is the importance of is sometimes, just for an example, for this SMTP send adapter, I need to stop sending emails because my email server is down and a lot of my business processes are failing because SMTP send adapter is failing and it is actually triggering the on fault and it is actually triggering a lot of production alerts as well as incidents just for the email server not being accessible or is not responding for some outages, right? And you are getting ton of emails like production support team, and you know that there's a root cause and there is some team, okay, that is working on it, and until it is fixed, there's no point in keep on having the business process trigger that specific step. So To do that, you can go ahead and you can disable the resident send adapter. For example, I'm just giving, right? Okay, it's not a real scenario, but very hypothetical. I'm giving an example. You can go and disable that within the service and adapter configuration. There is a, if you see over here, there's something called enable. You can deselect it, toggle it off, and it becomes, if you disable. So you won't be able to utilize that or to send anything, right? Similar to, for example, that there's some bottleneck that has happened within your infrastructure, and you have a https server adapter which is external facing, and that http server adapter is being used to receive https traffic from external customers, and you know that your backlog is still yet to clear. You don't want any additional traffic coming in and keep on failing, like then there's a lot of manual time consuming effort that has to go to even reprocess all those failed business processes, right? Rather, how about you disable the https server adapter so that your external customers actually start getting error or saying that we are not able to reach it. That way they don't send any data which is probably critical, and they don't, and you don't want to lose them. Rather, you just notify them over email or using some mechanism that you follow as part of your production support, that our http server data is down. Please don't try to retry or resend any failed messages. Rather, we will keep you notified, right? And these are very common things that I'm referring, right, for production support folks. Like they might be already aware of these things, right? Something not new. And then we'll notify you after our HTTP server data comes up, so that you can resend or retry or resume any processes that has failed during this timestamp. So that way you are reducing your production manpower, right, and additional work. And also in this entire thing, you're not missing any critical data because the data haven't come in, right? Sometimes it is very difficult to consolidate if there are thousands of failures in like few seconds. So you use it for those kind of purposes also, the services and adapter configuration, right? With that, I'm going to stop today's video, and then we'll continue next week with the same topic. And I'm hoping that in next session we'll be able to complete this uh, session, right, the series of sessions, and then move on to our new topic, right? And with that, take care. Happy Thanksgiving to those who are celebrating, and I'll talk to you next week.